Have you ever tried to center something in CSS and it just wouldn't move? You try margin auto, doesn't work. You try text align center, still broken. You Google how to center a div and suddenly you're down a rabbit hole of random Stack Overflow answers from 2012. Yeah, we've all been there. Today, I'll show you the right way to center anything: text, images, buttons, even entire divs in just a few lines. Let's fix it once and for all. If you're working with a block element like a div, give it a fixed width and set margin to 0 auto. Let's start simple. Imagine we have a div and we want to center that horizontally. I will also add a text, and here is our div. Of course, I'll need to add some color so we can clearly see that. I'll add a class, and then let's define it in our CSS file. First, a background color. Yeah, see that? Then foreground color. And also padding. As you see, it's taking the whole width. If you're working with a block element like a div and you want it centered horizontally, just give it a width and set margin to 0 auto. First step, we'll need a fixed width, so I'll set it to 200 pixels. I'll save it, you see. And second step, we set margin to 0 auto. I'll save it, and here you see that it's centered horizontally. Just remember, this only works if the element has a defined width. If you're centering text or inline elements inside a parent, add text align center to the parent. Now let's try centering text and inline elements. Imagine we have a div. Inside of that, we have two buttons. Okay, now we want to center these two buttons, right? First, I'll add some styles to these buttons. Okay, now we change those plain buttons, but still they are not centered. To center inline elements like text, buttons, or icons, we need to apply text align center to the parent. And that's it. So here, this div is the parent for those two buttons, and we need to set text align to center. If I save it, now you see that they're also centered. Now for the big one, centering both vertically and horizontally. Flexbox makes this super easy. Imagine we have a div as a container, and inside of that we have another div, and let's set the class to child div, and we want to center this div both vertically and horizontally inside its parent, right? Let's add some styles to these divs so we can see them. First, the parent, I'll set the height to 60 dh, and the background color, and then the child. Let's also add text to the child div, centered, and then come back and add a padding of 20 pixels, and color, and also border radius. Okay, now you see the result. In order to center the child div both vertically and horizontally, we need to use Flexbox for the parent. So I'll change display to flex. For handling the x-axis, we need to set justify content to center. I'll save it, you see. And to handle the y-axis, we need to set align items. And here you see that our inner div is centered inside its parent. But Flexbox isn't your only option. If you're a fan of CSS Grid, you can center everything even cleaner. Here, first, let me decrease the height of this div to 30, maybe. Yeah, okay. Then I'll copy and paste these lines, and I'll keep this inner div, just change parents class. And here you see the grid. Then let's add CSS properties to this class. I'll keep these like before and save it. Here, instead of using display flex, I'll use display grid. And besides that, we need to set place items to center. And then I'll save it. So you see, the result is exactly the same as using Flexbox. This time we used CSS Grid. Shorter, simpler, and works beautifully for full page layouts. And for those old school CSS lovers, you can still center with absolute positioning. Just move the elements to 50% from the top and left and pull it back with transform, translate. Here I'll copy these lines, but this time I need to change classes, relative parent, sounds a fitting name, and I'll also rename the inner class to child. I'll save it, and now you see the text here. Let's go to the CSS file for parent, relative parent. I'll set the position to relative, height like the previous ones to 30 VH, and also background color. I'll save it. This is the result. Now let's style the inner div. Child, set the position to absolute, then 50% from the top and 50% from left. I'll save it. We also need to set transform, translate, minus 50% and minus 50%. Also, let's copy these styles as well, so it has background color. Yeah. So as you see, these three look the same, but the first one is using Flexbox, second one CSS Grid, and last one absolute positioning. I highly recommend you to use either Flexbox or Grid, but for styling modals or pop-ups, you can take advantage of absolute positioning as well. So here's the breakdown. Use margin auto for block level elements, use text align for inline elements, use Flexbox and Grid for modern responsive layout, and use absolute positioning for overlays. Now you know every way to center things in CSS the smart way. If this saved you from CSS rage, drop a like and subscribe for more quick web dev fixes right here on Elite Tech Club. Until next time, keep coding and stay awesome.